AAUW is me.
I wanted to meet some new people and do some different things. And I also wanted to be part of an organization that had a social commitment to young women and the community at large.
I want to be a contributing member of an organization where women help women in promoting education, in making friends, in entertaining one another, and in sharing ideas about this world.
Women would want to join the AAUW because we have a very fierce commitment to equality and equity for women and girls. And if that's something that you're interested in, this is one of the best venues to help channel that energy.
Welcome to AAUW Connections. Tonight we have the pleasure of having two retired fire officers. We have retired Captain Mike Sanders from the Santa Clara County Fire Department, and we have retired Captain Michael Gonzalez from the South San Francisco Fire Department. Thank you so much for coming. And here today, you are here to talk to Alisa and Ruch Burn Foundation to tell us more about it, how it got started, and why they called Alisa and Ruch.
The Burn Foundation?
Yes.
Well, first of all, thanks for allowing Mike and I to be here. Sometimes we refer to ourselves as different nicknames. One is Colonel and the other is Otter, and we'll explain that here in a little bit later.
Okay.
So if you hear us talking back and forth, that's kind of what we do. The Alisa and Ruch Burn Foundation was founded in 1971 after 8-year-old Alisa Ann Ruch was fatally burned in a backyard barbecue accident. What happened is her father was barbecuing and he was using lighter fluid, and at that time lighter fluid was very flammable, and the can caught on fire, and as he went to get rid of it, he threw the can away and it exploded and landed on Alisa Ann Ruch and her brother. Her brother was burned very badly, but Alisa Ann Ruch, while she was in the hospital, she succumbed to her injuries for being burned. At that same time, there were 2 LA County firefighters that were burned in a house fire by children playing with matches. The families were in the waiting room of the hospital waiting to see what was going on with their families, and they got to talking and said, you know, we need to find a better way to educate people so that these burn injuries don't occur anymore. So the people talked and they got together and they actually held the first meeting for the Alisa Ann Ruch Burn Foundation at her aunt's house in the LA area. And from there it has grown to a statewide organization that Mike can probably talk about more of the budget if that's what it is, but I know that it's a huge statewide organization, and we depend on our volunteers and our very limited staff to provide education and burn prevention for children and adults throughout California.
Wonderful. Now you have a summer camp that's starting very soon, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, June 11th, we will be having a summer camp over out of the Fresno area near Sanger at a place called Wonder Valley. And we've been going there. In fact, this is our 25th year, and you have a very nice pin on you that we were brought in to give to you and your staff.
Thank you.
And so 25 years ago this year, we decided that our children, our burn survivor children, needed to go to a place where they could have a good time and feel free of burns, or people looking at them or staring at them, because there are some cases where some of our children have not been allowed to go into a restaurant because they just didn't look the same as everybody else.
Oh, that's terrible.
So this camp was founded in the LA area, and for the last 23 years we have been out of the Fresno Sanger area, and it's called Champ Camp. And Champ Camp is because that's where they all become champions, and we even have a little mascot there called Champy, and it's a week-long summer camp for these children ages 5 through 17. It's free of charge to them. It is staffed by a ratio of 2 counselors for every child that's there. We have a full medical staff. We have tons of activities we have, and I mean, I don't know, Mike, do you want to elaborate on some of the activities that we do?
Yes, tell me about some of the activities.
Yeah.
I saw on a film, I saw some of the activities that you have.
The activities are great. I mean, they go from, you know, we try to keep them age appropriate. We have 4 different age groups in that. We have buckaroos 5 to 7. We have rancheros that are 8 to 10. We have wranglers 11 to 13, and then we have seniors 14 to 17. And so there's events like the seniors have an out trip where we actually go river rafting or climbing up a rock, or maybe to a a lake, just depending on the year, but it's been river rafting, and we've got sponsors that help cover that expense. And then the other thing is that the seniors get to do like a ropes course where they can challenge themselves. And it's always interesting. I used to do a younger group, and the kids were a lot more afraid to step outside of themselves and stretch their envelope. By seniors, it's amazing that they do. And last year, every single one of my kids tried every single thing on the rope course, which, of course, the one is called Leap of Faith, where you climb up a telephone pole, and you stand on the top of this telephone pole, and then you jump toward a trapeze that's out, and you try to grab it. Now, of course, they're roped up, so they're not going to fall and hit the ground, but still.
But still, both you and I have done that. It's very scary to stand on top of this 30-foot telephone pole.
Exactly. It's one thing to look down. Looking up, it looks like it's not that bad, but when you're up on top. But we also have a dance for the kids. Sometimes that's the only time that they'll have dance partners. But I think the real magic, besides all the activities, and I mean there's archery and 22s and go-karts and mini bikes and 2 pools. There's a lot of stuff to do, but where the magic really hits the road is you can imagine being the only burn survivor in your school, and all of a sudden you go somewhere where there's another 149 other burn survivors, and they network amongst each other, and they realize they're not alone in this world, and that's really where the magic happens.
That's important. That's very important.
Yeah, I've been involved with Champ Camp for 25 years. Excuse me, for 20 years. I've been involved with the Burn Foundation for over 30 years, and I got involved with the Burn Foundation going to a firefighter's muster in San Luis Obispo, and a firefighter's muster is basically where firefighters become kids for a day. They get to squirt water and drive the fire engines and stuff, and so I was at an education booth, and they talked about the Burn Foundation, and I was very apprehensive about going to camp for the very first time because, first of all, I'd never seen a child or somebody that was severely burned before. And when I got there, I was very nervous. And after I saw the kids get off the bus, and we get children that come from all over California. And I remember my first year, I had some children from Los Angeles that wore full sweatshirts, hoods, long pants, and everything because they were so used to have people make fun of them at camp or at other places in their town that they were afraid to show their burn injuries. And by the second day, they're in the swimming pool, they're playing without their shirt on, they just become kids. And that's really what they are. These kids are, yes, they're a burn survivor, but they're actually kids. And we have kids that get burned from many various situations. Like Mike was saying, we have about 150 children. We're actually the largest burn camp in the world. And so we have children that come there that have been burned by hot liquids, maybe hot water on the stove has landed on them, or a hot cup of coffee, or bathtubs are one of our largest ways that children get burned because people have their hot water heaters set well above 120 degrees. If your hot water heater is set at 150 degrees and you are in that water for less than 1 second, you can get a 3rd-degree burn, which requires a skin graft. We have children that have been electrocuted. We have children that have been in car accidents have burned. So there's any kind of burn injury, it allows them to go to our summer camp. We even have some children that have maybe fallen out of a car or got the road rash and they've had to redo the skin with a skin graft. We take them as well because a skin graft is really what is a requirement for our kids to come to camp. I've done programs, I'm sure Mike has done programs too, that we'll go to a school and we'll say, okay, this is our program, everything, and they'll go, okay, and they'll go, how did we get to go? And I go, well, you have to have been burned. And they'll go, well, I burned my finger touching the stove. It's not the same thing. Yes, it hurts and we're sorry, but in order to go, you have to have had a skin graft. And so we have children that come there that have been coming for 25 years. We have some kids that have gone from coming in as a 5-year-old, if you can imagine sending a child to a camp for a week at 5 years old, going all the way through our program and have now become counselors. So it's interesting to see that progression.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
It's also interesting for them to change their perspective on who you are as a counselor. Once they're adults, they're seeing you as an adult relationship for the first time, as opposed to when they were 5 years old and you were this big, you know, superior person. And it's always interesting to see yourself in their eyes and the changes that happen over those years.
Well, now you also have some other programs too. You have a Getaway Program?
Yeah, but before we do that, I've got something for you. Every year we have T-shirts for our counselors and our kids that go. And once again, it's called Champ Camp.
Yes.
So it's very easy to see, and people know us by Champ Camp. And I've brought you a T-shirt. Now it may be a little bit big. It's an extra large.
That's okay.
But
I'll put a
just
sweater
remember,
on.
it is a. We give extra large shirts because we know you have an extra large heart. So,
Thank you.
And we appreciate all the support we
Well,
get
thank
from
you
your
very much.
organization here.
That's
so.
very nice of you. Thank you.
So yes, I'm sorry. Go
That's
ahead and
all right.
talk about it.
We wanted to go ahead and talk about the Getaway. Now, the Getaway is.
The Getaway is a little bit different. The Getaway is at well, it was at the same facility. They've actually moved it to a smaller facility. And what the Getaway is, it's for adults and families. We used to call it Family Camp, but we changed the name to Getaway for a very good reason. And that is that some of the people who were single adults were feeling like they didn't have family members to bring, so they weren't attending. And what it does is it allows them to get away from their daily routine and talk with family issues, because there are family issues when if your dad is a burn survivor, your mom's a burn survivor, there's dynamics in the family. And again, it allows them to interact with other families that are burn survivors, and also to have a retreat for the family unit itself.
Oh, that's good. That's very nice.
And it's very well attended, and it's like what Mike was saying. I think the best thing that happens there is now the adults get to see, if they're a burn survivor, say you and I are burn survivors and we're adults, you and I can talk about that. Or if your children are burned or your spouse is burned and you and I are not, we can talk about some of the difficulties we have in having to deal with going to the doctor. Because if a person is burned 3rd degree where they have to do a skin graft, for every % they're burned on their body, they will be there for at least a day and a half. So if you see somebody that says on the news that the person was burned 30%, minimum stay in a burn unit at a hospital, constant care, is at least 45 days. And so that's where they do the debriding and they put new skin back on it. It doesn't always take. So it's one of those ones that they have to scrape the skin away and put new skin back on. And they usually get it from you or me, excuse me, from me as a donor. If I burn myself, I would get it from me, usually on my leg or my back or something. And now I have another injury. So, and that's also a burn injury, because they take it down to the layers of the skin so that they can transfer it on here for a skin graft. That I not only have an injury here that is healing, but also down here. So as adults, they can talk about some of these things that are, you know, really right at their program.
Yes, right. What's going on in the family and how they're relating to this. And 45 days at the hospital, they have to worry about that.
That's just in the burn unit, and then they'll probably spend at least another 45 days or 30 days in the hospital. So, because the leading cause of death from somebody that gets burned is infection. So they have to really make sure that they keep them clean and sterile and everything. And then, so because after the skin graft is there, it doesn't mean that they can go home right away.
Yes.
We do have kids that come to camp that have had skin grafts, but like we have doctors on staff that are burn nurses, trauma doctors, we have physical therapists, occupational therapists that come, and everybody volunteers their time. Like when we go as firefighters or nurses or teachers or whatever it is, occupation that goes as a counselor, they donate their time so that we can give back to these children. But some of these kids, you'll see them and you won't even know that they're burned, because they wear clothes like what we have on right now. But if they take their shirt off, they show a burn injury. And people always ask me, well, do you have any abuse type of things? And I've had, I remember years ago, I had a girl that was, she was about 14 at the time. I was in charge of the senior group where Mike and I are in. And her father, when she was 8-year-old, put her on a barbecue because he did not want to have a daughter. He wanted a son. I've had children there that the parents have physically put out over 100 cigarettes on their children. So when we go to camp, it is very secure. We do not allow people to come in there. It's like a lockdown, because we have parents that are separated, that a child has been there and maybe the father wants or the mother wants to come get their kid while they're at camp. So we've actually had to use the sheriff's department quite a few times in order to stop some of these things. But kind of circling around, family camp or getaway camp is a great opportunity for families and children to go experience the real world out there without somebody staring at them.
That's right, that's right. And also now you have the young adults.
Oh, that's a great program. Mike has actually been. I've never been invited, and
the Young Adult Summit is awesome. It was really my favorite activity. But I
thought being in seniors was your favorite activity.
Well, that's what I tell you. But you know,
Okay, guys.
But Young Adult Summit, the thing that makes it so awesome is that these kids have grown up going to Christmas parties together, fishing trips, ski trips, camp, getaway, and now they're 16 to 20. And what I really noticed, I went the one time, and what I really noticed is there was a payoff for me, because the culmination of this was, there was no animosity between the kids. They were so well bonded that it didn't matter if you were a cool kid at school or you're kind of nerdish at school, didn't matter. They were well bonded amongst themselves. The other thing is that Burns took a back seat to, how do I get an apartment? How do I do a job interview? What is etiquette for dinner? And they change the curriculum every year so that it's slightly different for the kids. And it's just a great learning experience. When I told some of my friends about that, they're like, how do I get my kids into that? Because we'd all like to take our 16 to 20-year-olds and put them into how to become an adult, and that's what it is. And it's just
and you help with resumes and everything like that to prepare them to go out for a job.
When I was there, they had to fill out job applications, and then they would give them to somebody to grade. And then they'd come out and do a mock interview with 3 other volunteers, 3 other counselors, or 2 counselors, depending on how many kids we had. And then they'd go back in, find out how they did on their application. We would tell them before they left what they could do better on their interview. And then they'd refill out the application to see how they did after they'd been corrected, and then come in and re-interview with somebody completely different.
Oh, that's good.
And what's the cost to go there for the kids?
The kids are free.
Yes. All of our programs for our kids are free. People can go to our website, www.aarbf.org. They can see the programs that we have, and if, I've had people tell me, I can't volunteer, but I'd like to give money. I've had people tell me, I really can't give money, but I'd like to volunteer, such as the programs we do. I mean, besides that, we do a ski trip, like Otter was saying. Bear Valley donates the rentals for us. Stockton Fire, Manteca Fire pay for us to go have dinner and lunch with them. We have cabins that are donated to us. We do a fishing trip every year. Somebody donates all the fishing poles and food. I mean, it's really a no-cost thing, but we do have programs that cost money, like summer camp for us is over $100,000 for those kids to go there for 1 week.
Well, now you have other corporations who are giving.
We have some. Maybe you can address some of those.
Our funding comes from a number of sources. There are corporations. There are foundations that are in the giving money out, not using it for services. And then we have a lot of fundraisers that are personal fundraisers, as well as a personal appeal that people send their money into. Sometimes you see fire engines running up the peninsula, and they'll go from Mountain View, from Moffett Field up to San Francisco, and that's all the local fire departments that have had a golf tournament or a spaghetti feed or raised money at the street fair. Right. They give a big check, and it does a couple of things. It allows people to know who we are, which is important, not just for donations, but so that if there are burn survivors out there that aren't aware of who we are, we can make them aware. Right. And B, it also lets people know that a lot of these fire service in the cities are working outside of just giving back to the community in their fire service job, but also on their own time. They're doing these fundraisers and going to camp and doing that kind of thing. So it acknowledges both. It's a fun day. In the Bay Area here, we have one in the North Bay that goes from Healdsburg down to Sausalito, and then we have the one in the peninsula that goes from Moffett Field up to San Francisco.
We actually stop right at Mountain View Fire Station right down the road here on Shoreline, and we stop in Los Altos at the Los Altos Station on San Antonio and Allman. And like Mike was saying, that's how the big money is, but a lot of our money is donated directly from firefighters. In fact, that's how the foundation started years ago, as firefighters donated money, $100 here, $10 there. They would save aluminum cans and turn those in, and it was just a big program. And so with the kind of budgets we have, just $10 here, $10 there is great to help us out.
But you've also given a lot of your time, because you've told me in the past how much you've done that.
Yes. But you know what? That's what we love doing.
And what's this Bridge to Life scholarships? Is that one that you were just talking about already?
No, the Bridge to Life scholarship is a little bit different, and in order for some of our burn survivors that would otherwise not be able to go to school, we try to they can get up to $2,000 toward furthering their education after high school. We have a very limited number, so we can't do it in mass because of our budgetary situation. And this economy, like we were talking about corporations and foundations, it's affected everybody. So our numbers are down, and we've put a couple programs on hold. but we've been able to keep the core programs going at full strength, and our doors are open, and we're good financially because we've stayed on top of it. But we would love to get those other programs back up and running.
But this helps with the tuition and things like that.
Yes, exactly.
And that's so important.
One of the things that is really not a cost program that we do that is very successful is called Back to School. We do it for children. We have one that's called Back to Work as well, but I'll talk about the children. Is that, let's say little 8-year-old Johnny was burned playing with matches and gasoline. Common occurrence for us to see for a child that gets burned. Spends 3 months in the hospital away from school. Before little Johnny's going to come back to school, volunteers like myself and Mike will go into the classroom a couple days before the child's going to come back to school, and we'll go, you guys all remember little Johnny? Yeah, well, he had an accident. We talk a little bit about it. We do some role playing and kind of talk to him about Johnny coming back to school. That way, when Johnny comes back to school, he's accepted by these children and he's not made fun of. In fact, a lot of times these children that are at school will protect him from other people saying bad things about him.
That's wonderful.
You have to understand that when these kids come back from their burn injuries, to prevent the scarring from being really massive, they'll have what looks like a skin diving suit on, which is pressure dressings, pressure garments, and they might even have like a hockey mask on their face. So they look very different. And just like everybody else in life, the more you can educate them for what these things are for, the better understanding they have. And like Mike says, at that point, they can oftentimes become the defender of those very children, and it just makes the transition back to school that much more successful.
And the same thing is Back to Work. We've done many programs for PG&E. A lot of those people get electrocuted that way, and so we'll go in and talk to them, or a Back to Work program, say at Apple or Genentech or some other company. Anybody that has that kind of issue and needs our help, they're more than welcome to call us, and it's 800-755-BURN is our 800 number that you can call anytime to get burn information, 800-755-BURN.
I never thought about PG&E, but that they are in the area. They can be burned. Right. Now, do you go into the schools and talk to kids on regular programs, even if there isn't somebody, one of their students who's been burned?
Yeah, well, besides doing the ones for children that have been burned, we also have a program, juvenile fire setters, or we go into schools and talk to them about how to prevent fires from occurring, how to prevent burns from occurring. One of the things that we taught years ago, we still do, is a brochure called Cool a Burn. A lot of people, when I was younger, I remember burning my hand on a lamp and somebody put butter on it. That is the worst thing that can happen, is to put grease or something on it. You want to put cool water on it for 15 to 30 minutes. No you
ice.
Put ice on it. What happens, if you've ever taken ice out of the freezer and go to put it in your glass and sticks to your fingers, the same thing happens to a burn injury. If you put ice on it and take the ice away, it'll pull the skin away. So cool water for at least 15 to 20 minutes. And if it is a severe burn, you need to go to the hospital and have it checked out at a burn center.
Oh, that's interesting.
But we also have a program, which is I like doing, is we use a big blue mat, kind of like what you see here, and it has the words stop, drop, and roll. And that's what we do to educate children to do if their clothes ever catch fire. They want to stop what they're doing, drop down to the ground, put their hands over their face, cover their face so that hot smoke and gases do not go up in the mouth or nose, and roll around on the ground to put the fire out. And it's fun. We take those to, we take these mats with us wherever we go, and we do this practicing thing, and the kids love doing it.
Well, you know, when I think of that, the first thing you want to do is run.
Correct.
Because you're scared.
Yes. So that's where you'll find times that kids will run and another child will grab them and put them to the ground and use their coat or whatever to put them out. But yeah, if you run, you fan the flames, get more oxygen to the flames, and the flames burn hotter and higher.
Exactly. That's what would concern me. Yeah. Now, you were talking about volunteers. You need volunteers. What kind of volunteers do you need? Well, would you want somebody like me, or do you want somebody who's in the medical field or something like that?
No.
You know, it's really interesting because we've talked a lot about how fire service is really involved, and that's just kind of a natural extension of what we did. It allows us to complete that circle where we might treat somebody at a call that was burned in a fire or a car accident, and then they go on their way. And for us, it allows us to complete the circle. But certainly, it is not limited to that. We have accountants, we have people who are airline pilots and attendants and street department workers, and
we have office workers,
teachers.
I don't mean to steal your thunder there, Mike, but we really do look for volunteers. Volunteers is the backbone of our organization. There's only 9 or 10 staff members that we have throughout the state. And when it's like this program that we're doing tonight before we got here, like to get the pin and the shirts and stuff, we get those from our San Francisco office. That way they don't have to come down and do this kind of thing. Not that they wouldn't do a great job, but I think Mike and I do a great job.
You do wonderful.
But it's just one of those ones that if they went everywhere where people wanted them to go, they don't have enough time. So volunteers, especially at events like the Mountain View Art and Wine Festival, we have been there and done those kind of events, and so we usually have volunteers that do those. So it's not only Champ Camp or the ski trip or fishing or the back to school programs or all the other things we've talked about for volunteers. We need people to help out in the office. I mean, it can be just making out envelopes, and it varies from ages. I mean, my children have volunteered since they were 6 years old to somebody that's more mature.
Thank you.
You know, Mary Ellen, my first question always is when somebody says, can I volunteer, is what do you like to do?
Right.
If you like to read, you could read to the kids at one of the activities that we're going to. You know, if you're good at filing and that's what you want to do, every bit helps. And what I love about our organization is Mike's absolutely right that volunteers are kind of what I consider the glue that is there continually year after year after year, but it's the working parts that make it so cool. The burn survivors are so important to what we do and helping each other out. Our burn survivors that are adults in the support groups, going to the hospitals for hospital visits when they're first burned, to help them understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Our staff is so hardworking that we're actually down to 8 employees statewide, and these guys work so hard to make sure things happen, that they always have balls up. And I always kid them because I go, well, when we get more money, we'll have more programs and you'll still be working just as hard. And then, you know, so. And then our donors, the things like Stockton Fire Department providing a breakfast, or Ebbets Pass Fire provided 3 meals and arranged housing for us, the volunteers that help at the camps, the volunteers that help in the offices. It's such a great thing. And what I love being on the board, because sometimes there's little egos that get in the way of things and bickering and about my idea is better than your idea. And I never see that. What I see in the Burn Foundation is people are looking for the mission and they're saying, how can we make our organization better? Sometimes it's a difference of opinion on how to get there, but everybody keeps it at issues and moves the whole organization ahead. It's awesome.
Thank you. I hate to have to say this, Owen, but we're out of time.
Oh,
no way.
We were kind of just getting started.
Yeah, we're on a roll.
You were just going to so, and do you have something you want to say in the last minute?
No, I just think that, you know, what we provide for people out there sometimes isn't known for burn survivors. And these are children or adults that have been burned and they're a survivor. And like Mike said, there is light after the end of the tunnel of somebody being burned, that there are other things that they can look forward to in life.
And you, Mike?
I would like to thank you guys for inviting us to let people know who we are and what it is we do, and let everybody know that all those groups I just said, that is the Alisa and Ruch Burn Foundation. It's not 3 offices throughout the state.
Well, thank you, both of you. Mike?
Thank you.
And you, Mike. Thank you. And thank you for watching AAUW Connections.